Gemini, this person's plans involve you, and you can't even imagine. Not everything is as it seems, especially now. You've been feeling the whisper of change, haven't you? A strange pull in your body, a flicker of knowing in your mind. And while you've been navigating your internal world with curiosity and courage, something has been unfolding just outside your line of sight. Someone, perhaps closer than you think, is weaving a quiet web. And somehow, Gemini, you are at the center of it. This isn't about fear. It's about awareness. Your life is moving. Conversations feel heavier than usual. Encounters carry a weight you can't explain. It's as if the universe is leaving breadcrumbs, delicate signs, for your mind and spirit to follow. And you, with your dual nature, your infinite curiosity, your deep longing to understand what's beneath the surface, you're the only one who can truly unravel this. In this video, we'll walk through the hidden plans that may be shaping your reality without your full consent. We'll uncover the intentions, both subtle and significant, of the person whose path is entangled with yours. And most importantly, we'll empower you to reclaim your choices. If any part of you has felt like something is off, trust that inner knowing. And if you're ready to see what's been quietly influencing your steps, stay with me. I'm Elizabeth, and this is Esoteric Wisdom. If you feel held by these messages, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to walk this path of awakening together. Gate 1, the subtle influence. Who is guiding your steps, Gemini? Gemini, you've always been the observer, the seeker of truth between contrasts, the one who listens, connects, and questions. But there's something about this moment in your life that feels orchestrated. Like certain pieces have fallen into place too smoothly. Like the right person showed up at just the right time. Like the advice you've received, though seemingly kind, nudged you in a direction you weren't quite sure about. There's a reason for that. Someone has been paying very close attention to you, to your rhythms, to your patterns, to your vulnerabilities and your hopes. And they've been quietly shaping the circumstances around you. Not in an overt or aggressive way, but subtly, lovingly, perhaps even manipulatively. The word manipulation often carries negative connotations, but here it's more complex. This is someone who may truly care. Someone who believes they're doing what's best for you. Someone who perhaps sees your potential more clearly than you currently can. But the heart of the matter is not their intentions, it's your awareness. This person may be a friend who always seems to know what's best. A partner who gently steers conversations in a certain direction. A mentor who pushes certain opportunities and avoids others. They may not even realize how deeply they're shaping your life, but the truth is they are. And now, Gemini, you are being called to wake up to it. You've made choices recently that didn't quite feel like yours. You told yourself they were, but when you look back, you remember how someone framed that choice, how someone reassured you, or perhaps how someone quietly withdrew their support when you hesitated. These micro-movements are powerful, and they're part of a larger architecture being designed around you. The universe is shifting. And for someone like you, whose mind dances between dualities, whose soul thrives on movement and possibility, being influenced without realizing it is the deepest kind of entrapment, because it goes against your very nature. Gemini, your chart right now is activated by sharp aspects involving Mercury and Neptune, communication and illusion. This means you are especially sensitive to what is said and what is withheld. And when Neptune whispers through the veils, it often hides truths behind beauty, behind comfort, behind the illusion of safety. That is where you must be most vigilant. What makes this even more complicated is that this person may genuinely love you. Their guidance may not come from control or ego, but from fear. Fear that you'll choose wrongly. Fear that you'll waste your gifts. Fear that you won't live up to the brilliance they see in you. But no matter how noble the fear, it is still fear. And fear has no place in the architecture of your freedom. I want you to think about the past few weeks. What decisions have you made that didn't feel fully aligned? Who was nearby? Who offered a solution before you even finished describing the problem? Who seemed a little too relieved when you agreed to something you were unsure about? That's your breadcrumb trail. This isn't an invitation to blame. It's an invitation to wake up. Because here's the truth, Gemini. When someone tries to control your destiny, even gently, even sweetly, they steal something sacred from you. Your right to become who you are through your own choices. And no one, no matter how close to you, has the right to do that. But I also want you to see the opportunity in all of this. Because once you recognize the pattern, you can reclaim the pen. You can begin to write your story, not out of rebellion, not out of anger, but from clarity. You can start making decisions that are messy, unexpected, wild, because they are yours. And there is nothing more magnetic, nothing more freeing than a Gemini who is living fully in their truth. This person's plans? They may not be evil. In fact, they may be beneficial. But unless you're choosing them freely, they will never nourish your soul. So here's your task. In the next few days, notice. Notice who gives advice too quickly. Who always has the right answer. Who gets uncomfortable when you change your mind. Pay attention to how your body reacts in conversations. Gemini, your body is your greatest compass. You may live in your mind, but your gut never lies. And remember, just because someone loves you doesn't mean they know what's best for you. Love, when it is pure, allows space. Space for uncertainty. Space for risk. Space for your divine autonomy. You don't need to confront them. Not yet. First, confront yourself. Ask yourself where you've given away your power in exchange for certainty. Ask yourself whether the life you're building right now feels like yours or someone else's idea of what your life should be. And then slowly, lovingly, take it back. Because when you begin to live from your center again, everything changes. The conversations shift. The dynamics rebalance. And the people who truly love you, they'll celebrate your clarity. They'll step back, even if it scares them. They'll honor your right to make your own mistakes and your own miracles. Gemini, you are not here to play a role in someone else's script. You are here to write your own. And now you are beginning to remember that. Gate 2, the end of illusion. A chapter closes, Gemini. There is a silent ache, Gemini, when a truth you didn't want to see begins to reveal itself. For weeks, maybe even months, you've sensed that something was changing. At first, it felt like an uneasiness, an invisible pressure around your chest, a restlessness that words couldn't quite capture. You told yourself it was just stress, that life was moving too fast, that you needed more sleep, more clarity, more answers. But what you were really feeling was the end of a cycle. One that you may not have consciously chosen to close, but one that your soul has been gently, and now urgently, pushing you to release. Gemini, illusions are seductive. They wrap themselves around your mind like silk. They promise safety, ease, belonging. They allow you to believe in the version of reality that's most comfortable, even when it's not quite true. Maybe you believed that someone had your best interests at heart, that a relationship was still aligned, that a situation would work itself out in time. You kept hoping, waiting, justifying. Because to accept that something was over felt too painful, too final. But something has shifted, hasn't it? Recently, the veil has started to lift. Not all at once, because spirit is kind, but just enough to make you pause. To look again. To question. And in that space of questioning, truth has begun to trickle in. Maybe you caught someone's tone, or noticed a pattern you had ignored, or finally admitted to yourself that the dynamic wasn't mutual, or fair, or healthy. Maybe you realized you were the one holding it all together while pretending it was mutual effort. And now, the chapter is closing. This might be the end of a friendship, the final unraveling of a romantic bond, the quiet resignation from a role, a dream, or a life path that no longer fits. But whatever it is real. It is profound, and it matters. Here's what you need to know, Gemini. Closure doesn't always come with clarity. Sometimes it arrives with confusion, grief, and longing. Sometimes you're left with questions that may never be answered. But don't mistake that for failure. Letting go isn't a loss. It's a graduation. You are not who you were when this chapter began. You've grown. You've awakened. You've outgrown the illusion that once gave you comfort. And that is a sacred thing. Your chart right now is activated by a dissolving square between Mercury, your ruling planet, and Neptune. This is an aspect that exposes illusions while simultaneously making it difficult to fully trust what you're seeing. But you don't need perfect clarity to honor a truth that's felt in your bones. So much of your pain comes from resisting the end, from trying to hold the curtain open when the show has already closed, from trying to stay in alignment with someone or something that your soul has already said goodbye to. And here's what no one tells you. Endings are not failures. They are invitations. Invitations to return to yourself, to see what was real, to grieve what was beautiful, to reclaim what you gave away too easily. So take a deep breath, Gemini. You are not broken. You are awakening. This ending, no matter how unexpected or confusing, is a clearing, a divine interruption. And even if you don't fully understand it yet, you are being released for a reason. Sometimes the people we think we need are actually the ones we must outgrow. Sometimes the version of ourselves we were trying to protect is the very identity we're meant to dissolve. And sometimes closure doesn't come from a conversation or a goodbye, it comes from a quiet decision in your heart to stop returning to something that no longer nurtures your soul. You may feel nostalgic in the days ahead. Memories will surface. Sentences you wish you had said. Moments you wish you could relive or rewrite. Let yourself feel them. Let them move through you like waves. But do not let them anchor you in a place you no longer belong. Because here's what's waiting on the other side of this ending. Space. Spaciousness in your heart. Spaciousness in your life. Space for real connection, real resonance, real purpose. And most of all, space for you to show up as your full self, unapologetically, freely, and without the need to shrink for someone else's comfort. Gemini, you've worn the mask long enough. You've played the role, smiled through the silence, made yourself smaller to keep the peace. But you were never meant to live a half-life. You were born for brilliance, for complexity, for truth. And truth is what's arriving now, no matter how uncomfortable. So here's your choice. Will you grieve and grow? Or will you loop back into the illusion just to delay the inevitable? I believe in you. You are strong enough to let go, to bless the ending, to thank it for what it gave you, and then to walk forward, not with bitterness, but with clarity. This isn't just about someone else's hidden plans anymore. This is about your own readiness to stop pretending you're okay with things that no longer serve you. Let yourself leave the room. Let yourself end the chapter. Let yourself walk away, even without a final word, because this ending is actually your beginning. Gate 3, Soul Connection, the sacred mirror, Gemini. There are moments, Gemini, when you meet someone and something ancient stirs in your soul. A spark, a familiarity that transcends this lifetime. A recognition not of the mind, but of something deeper, something wordless. This is not about romance in the traditional sense. This is about soul resonance. Lately, you may have crossed paths with someone who doesn't just challenge your thoughts, but who reflects them. Someone who doesn't just comfort your loneliness, but makes you feel profoundly seen. Someone who, through their mere presence, awakens a version of you that has long been waiting in the quiet. This is the sacred mirror. And in the mirror of this connection, Gemini, you're beginning to see parts of yourself you forgot existed. It may not make sense on paper. They might not be your type. Your lives may be wildly different. The timing may be imperfect. But soul recognition is not interested in logic. It is a frequency, a vibration, that defies linear explanations. It opens you, shatters you, heals you, and asks you to evolve. There is a vulnerability here that can feel terrifying. Gemini, you're known for your lightness, your wit, your capacity to navigate life through curiosity and intellect. But this connection doesn't ask for your cleverness. It asks for your presence, your truth, your heart. And that can be confronting, because to be fully seen is one of the most sacred and frightening experiences of all. You may have noticed that being near this person strips away your defenses. You speak without filtering. You feel without analyzing. You remember parts of your childhood, your dreams, your spiritual longings, all without trying. It's as if this person holds a key to a doorway within you that you didn't even know existed. This is not an accident. In astrology, Neptune is currently sending subtle currents through your 7th house of relationship and mirroring, bringing forth connections that are destined, divine, and sometimes disorienting. These are the ones that don't let you stay asleep, the ones that shake you, the ones that come to teach and transform. But here's the thing, soul connections are not always meant to last forever. Sometimes they arrive just long enough to open a wound so it can be healed. Sometimes they ignite a passion that had gone dim, only to leave once your fire is rekindled. And sometimes they stay, but only if you are both willing to do the soul work that the bond demands. You may be wondering, why now? Because your soul is ready. Because you've been shedding old patterns of pleasing, of performing, of hiding behind roles. And now, you are capable of being truly met. And the universe, in all its wisdom, has placed someone in your path who meets you there, in the raw, in the truth, in the possibility. This person may not even realize how deeply they've impacted you. Or perhaps they do, and they're just as shaken as you are. Either way, what matters is not their response, but your awareness. This connection is a message, a sign, a mirror. It's telling you, you are not invisible. You are not broken. You are not alone. So what now? You don't need to chase it. You don't need to define it. You don't need to force it to become something specific. You only need to honor it. Honor what it awakens in you. The longing, the hope, the grief, the courage. Honor the way it's teaching you to stay present in your body, to speak truth even when your voice trembles, to receive love without immediately preparing to lose it. Gemini, there is a version of you that has been buried beneath years of being what others needed. This connection? It's helping you find you again. You may feel like you're becoming too sensitive, too emotional, too affected, but you are not. You are opening. That's what sacred bonds do. They crack open the heart. They invite the soul to rise. They remind us that the deepest intimacy is not physical, it's energetic, it's spiritual. It's when your truth is met with reverence, not resistance. If this person has already drifted from your life, that doesn't mean the experience was any less real. In fact, sometimes the most soul-shaping connections are the briefest. But their imprint remains, and you carry their reflection forward, not as a wound, but as a light. And if this person is still near, take your time. Don't rush. Don't cling. Let the connection breathe. Let it evolve. Let it reveal why your souls were drawn together in this lifetime. Ask yourself, what have I learned about myself through this person? What feelings have they awakened that I had buried? What fears do they trigger in me, and why? Because soul connections are not always soft. Sometimes they bring up every fear of abandonment, every past betrayal, every old scar. Not to hurt you, but to heal you. And healing, dear Gemini, is messy, but it is sacred. You are not here to get it right. You are here to be real. So wherever this bond leads, whether to a deep partnership, a spiritual friendship, or a momentary crossing, know that it has already served its purpose, to remind you of who you really are when you are no longer hiding. And that in itself is holy. Gate 4, reclaiming inner power. Gemini, you were never powerless. Gemini, in the quiet aftermath of revelation, after the plans have been exposed, after the illusions have dissolved, after the soul has been stirred awake, something even more sacred begins to rise within you. Your power. Not the kind the world glorifies. Not dominance, not control, not sharp words or louder voices. No, this is something softer, deeper, and far more enduring. This is inner power, the strength to stand in your truth, even when it wavers. The courage to trust your intuition, even when it contradicts logic. The wisdom to say, this is not for me, even when everyone else says it is. You were never powerless, Gemini. You were simply disconnected from your center, because for too long, your energy has been scattered. You've given too much weight to the voices around you, family, friends, lovers, mentors. You've adapted, negotiated, compromised, until you didn't recognize whose life you were living anymore. But not anymore. This chapter of your life is not just about awakening, it's about reclamation. You are being called to take back your power in the most radical and sacred of ways, by making choices rooted in your own authority. Gemini, the truth is your power was never lost. It was just buried beneath expectations, hidden behind survival strategies, wrapped in the armor of being easygoing or not wanting to upset anyone. You convinced yourself that staying flexible meant you were in control. But what you were really doing was protecting everyone else's comfort at the expense of your own clarity. And now, you've outgrown that. With Mercury, your ruling planet, entering a sharp trine to Pluto, the cosmic invitation is undeniable. Transform your voice. Speak not just to be heard, but to claim space. Not to defend yourself, but to declare who you are. This transformation doesn't require a dramatic rebellion. It doesn't have to be loud. In fact, your greatest power move may be a quiet no, a sacred boundary, a decision made in stillness, a refusal to be guilt, manipulated, or softly coerced into someone else's vision of your life. You are not here to be agreeable. You are here to be authentic. Power, for you, Gemini, will never look like force. It will look like discernment, like self-trust, like walking away from something good enough because your soul whispered, "There's more for you than this." And yes, that will shake things up. Some people will not understand your shift. They've benefited from your flexibility, your adaptability, your habit of second-guessing yourself. They may resist this new version of you who says what they feel, who walks away without drama, who no longer seeks approval. Let them. You are not here to shrink yourself into a version of you that makes others more comfortable. You are here to grow, to stretch, to become. And this version of you, the one emerging now, is not harder or colder. She's clearer. He's more grounded. They are rooted in truth, not performance. You are realizing that freedom doesn't come from being liked. It comes from being sovereign. It comes from knowing your worth without waiting for validation. It comes from honoring your energy, your time, your vision, even when others don't. It comes from recognizing that your intuition is not a backup plan. It is the blueprint. And Gemini, you've always had the ability to see the patterns, to make connections others miss. But now, you are learning to apply that brilliance inward, to see your own behavior clearly, to map your own patterns of self-abandonment, to connect the dots between people-pleasing and burnout, between overthinking and inaction, between compassion and compromise. And the most powerful thing you can do now, make a new choice. Choose the unknown over the familiar trap. Choose truth over illusion. Choose alignment over obligation. Choose you. Because once you step into your true power, life begins to meet you differently. New opportunities arise, not because they're given, but because you are now available to receive them. Relationships shift, not because others change, but because your standards do. Miracles begin to unfold, not because the universe suddenly loves you more, but because you've finally stopped resisting what was always meant for you. So, ask yourself, where have I been handing away my power in exchange for peace? What would it look like to trust myself completely? What am I ready to stop apologizing for? And most of all, what kind of life becomes possible when I fully choose myself? You don't need to rush the answer. You only need to stay with the question. Live it. Let it lead you home. Because true power, Gemini, is not about becoming someone else. It's about remembering who you were before the world taught you to forget. Conclusion, the awakening choice, Gemini. And now, Gemini, you've seen the truth. You've followed the thread from subtle influence to endings to soul recognition and finally, to the quiet power that was always sleeping inside of you. And here you are, clearer, softer, stronger. This journey wasn't about finding answers outside of you. It was about returning to the voice within, to the quiet knowing beneath the noise, to the real you, unmasked, unmanipulated, undistracted. You're beginning to understand now. Not every plan that involves you deserves your participation. Not every connection that stirs your soul is meant to stay. And not every illusion you once needed for survival still deserves a place in your life. There's freedom in that. Because with clarity comes choice. And your choice, Gemini, is sacred. You can continue walking someone else's path, or you can begin building your own. You can stay asleep to the subtle strings pulling at your life, or you can wake up and cut them, one by one, with love. You can remain a beautifully dressed character in someone else's story, or you can pick up the pen and write your own. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are right on time. This is your moment. If this journey resonated with you, if something stirred, opened, or softened in you, know that you're not alone. We are walking this path of awakening together. And I invite you, with all gentleness, to like, share, and subscribe if you feel called. Let's continue this healing journey side by side, heart by heart, because this is just the beginning. Gemini, the world is waiting to meet the version of you who has fully remembered who they are. Don't look away now. Don't settle. Don't shrink. You have seen too much. And you were not meant to forget again. You were meant to rise.